the mayor of New York City, Mr. Bill de Blasio, joins us now. Mr. Mayor, good to see you. You all have done a good job communicating. The schools are still open here in New York City. What's your update this morning, and how are you looking at this? You've tried to remain calm, obviously, but also you've tried to keep this in some kind of context for this big city.
Willie, 8.6 million people here. We have 25 cases as of this morning, and we care deeply about each of those individuals, but against the backdrop of 8.6 million people. And for the vast majority of New Yorkers, life is going on pretty normally right now, and we want to encourage that. Look, we've got to look out for people here, especially those who are over 50 years old and have pre-existing conditions like lung disease, heart disease, cancer, diabetes. These are the folks we really need to be careful for. But if you're under 50 and you're healthy, which is most New Yorkers, there's very little threat here. This disease, even if you were to get it, basically acts like a common cold or flu. And transmission is not that easy. I think there's been a misperception that coronavirus hangs in the air waiting to catch you. No, it takes direct person-to-person contact, direct transmission of fluids. So what we're finding is we're giving New Yorkers a lot of guidance about how to be careful, wash your hands more, use hand sanitizer, cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze. Here's an easy one, Willie. If you're an older person, and especially if you have those pre-existing conditions, don't visit folks who are sick. You want to see your grandchildren, they have the sniffles, that's not the time to see them. So what I'm finding is New Yorkers are pretty tough, and they're listening, and they're making adjustments. But our schools are running. And we've said, even if, God forbid, we found a case in a school, we're not shutting down all our schools. We're not even shutting down that school long term. We're going to go in, clean that school, isolate individuals who had that really direct contact, and then get up and running. We'll have a day where a school is shut to get reset, then get back up and running. Because people's livelihoods are at stake. Parents need a place for their kids. We can stay safe, but still keep our lives going, our economy going. People have to pay the rent. People need money for food, etc. We cannot shut down because of undue fear. That's my concern.
So you were here last week expressing concern about a lack of test kits.
Yes.
That we couldn't get the testing to know how many people actually have it and to begin to contain it. Has that improved since you were here a few days ago?
Improved, but not enough. Willie, as recently as 8 days ago, New York City did not have the ability to do its own tests. We finally got that ability. But what we still don't have is the approval from the FDA for automated tests that would take us from doing, 100 a day, for example, to being able to do thousands and very quickly. I can't fathom this, Willie. We've been asking incessantly, letters, phone calls. FDA has not approved the thing that would actually put us all into real fighting trim to address this situation.
What do they say? Why is that?
I have not gotten a coherent answer. And this is a crisis that's been going on for most of 2 months. We still don't have the supplies we need of surgical masks, which should be. I do believe the federal government should step in and say, this region needs this many, that region needs this many. They haven't done that with surgical masks. They haven't even done that with hand sanitizer, which is literally a crucial part of addressing this crisis. Federal government still way too absent. No, there's no firm hand on the wheel. But what I do want to say is localities are taking matters into our own hands. State of New York, I think, is doing a lot of great work. We're trying to stay ahead of this. And the people see that. They see that the local governments are functioning and the city's functioning, and they're acting accordingly.
Joe has one for you. Joe?
So, Mr. Mayor, help me understand this. You're telling me that in a city of over 8 million people, you're only able to administer like hundreds of tests?
Joe,
is that where we are?
Yeah, and they're slow, in truth. I mean, we're able to keep getting people tested, but if we had the approval from the FDA for automated tests, it would be thousands of tests we could do in a single day with results the same day. And that would help us to get people. Look, a lot of people need to be isolated. It would allow us to make sure that happened as quickly as possible and that we could give people the whole truth of what's going on. It's unfathomable after this long that these tests haven't been approved.
So something that Meek has been talking about for several days now that's been causing great concern is what happened at St. John's Hospital, Episcopal Hospital in Far Rockaway, where one person, a 33-year-old Uber driver with coronavirus, walks into the emergency room, tests positive for the coronavirus. And the 40 doctors, nurses, and hospital staff members that are around immediately have to self-quarantine.
Right.
So one person walks in and wipes out a good chunk of the entire emergency room staff. I'm sure you've seen what's happening in South Korea, what's happening in Italy, what's happening in other countries where you're having people go up and they're able to drive through, get swabbed, have the tests, just like you're seeing on the screen right now. Is there any chance, if the federal government won't do it, is there any chance that New York City maybe could take the lead on doing something like this so we could protect our healthcare workers, we could protect our doctors, our nurses, our healthcare technicians, our staff members, to make sure that we don't have a healthcare crisis inside the emergency rooms? Because you multiply out what happened in the Far Rockaway Hospital, suddenly you have a health emergency very quickly.
Joe, you're exactly right. That was an aberrant situation. I think that was an example of sort of we're in a transitional phase where people are getting used to it. And that hospital was acting a little bit more business as usual than I think we ideally want. Those healthcare workers will be back soon and in the game, but that's the only place we've had a situation like this. I think you're right. The kind of precautions other countries have taken, we are instituting them around our healthcare system. Number one, you're absolutely right. Keep the healthcare workers and professionals in the game to help everyone else. But most hospitals now have really put a lot of precautions in place. Simple idea, Joe. Someone comes in, they're symptomatic, and or they give you information about a connection to another case. You put a mask on them immediately, isolate them immediately. So that's going to be the protocol.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.